Thanks for visiting the patient and the weather today. I'm meteorologist Al Peterlin. I'd like to talk about the weather health stresses for April 14th, 2026. We do keep additional graphics available at tpatw.com, and we maintain a storefront on patient weather on Amazon. Amazon purchases made through our patient weather storefront support the activities of patient weather. Looking at the surface map for Tuesday, it looks like a lot of unsettled weather across the heartland and up to the Great Lakes and on into New England. There will be some low pressure pushing into the Pacific Northwest, and that's pretty typical. A little bit of snow still hanging back from that low pressure center over Colorado, and there is a cool front hanging all the way from Kansas down to southern New Mexico. A warm front, a massive active warm front, will stretch all the way from Kansas through Iowa, the Michigan Upper Peninsula, and then swinging back east to Bangor, Maine. Lots of unsettled weather from Texas, across the plains, up the upper Mississippi Valley, across the Great Lakes into New England. Looking at the vitality index, which is a measure of the individual weather elements that might trigger a migraine or any other health issue, we do have some activity, as always, going on into the Pacific Northwest. A nice bubble of activity going on here in the Four Corners, and of course that active frontal position all the way from Dallas, clearing up to Des Moines, and really across the Ohio Valley. Little bit of activity here in New England, but it's mostly pulling away from New England. Looking at pressure change, and pressure change is surprisingly minimal for this time of year, and basically meaning that the activity with the fronts are going on with a pretty stable process, although we have lifted index very extreme, meaning instability in the atmosphere. We have falling pressure, it's typical here in the Pacific Northwest, falling pressure over the state of Michigan and up the Great Lakes, rising pressure here in South Dakota into southern Minnesota, and rising pressure but moving away to the east across New Hampshire and Maine. Looking at temperature change, again, not as dramatic as it would seem, but that's because the warm-up has really begun in the east, and we're starting to push a little bit of warm air back into Southern California and up into really Idaho and parts of Nevada. A little bit of cooling here in, again, the southern plains, but that's really associated with the frontal activity. Dew point temperatures a little bit more interesting, and you can see we have falling dew points here in the west, rising dew points here, moving into the plains, and that again is just another example of how the instability will be dominating the central and the eastern portions of the country. The lifted index, or the measure of instability, again very interesting, as we have unsettled weather once again from Dallas all the way to Iowa, stretching into the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes. Really swath of very unstable air here from Oklahoma City to Iowa. Looking at the change in oxygen availability and getting more down to where we're going to see an effect on the human health, we have some migraine risk here in extreme eastern Washington, and that's ahead of where that pressure will be falling. We have migraine risk from Arizona on up into Utah and across into Colorado, and then moving on to South Dakota, moving into Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, and then jumping all the way up into New England, basically New Hampshire and Maine. Note also that risk of migraine here across Dallas up to Oklahoma City into southeastern Kansas. We have a risk of asthma and arthritis, unusual here for Southern California, very significant across Montana and North Dakota, and then picking up again about the Great Lakes. Thanks for visiting the patient and the weather. Your comments are appreciated. And